everybody, welcome back to Photography for the Rest of Us, a place for people who just love the art of photography. My name is Carrie, and today is week 2, day 2 of our Learn Photo Challenge. Hey guys, welcome to day 2 of week 2 of our photo challenge. We are all doing so well. I love seeing all your photos, and I love that you guys are sticking through this. Believe me, as I've been making videos for each of these days, it's a long month, right? Like 5 days last week didn't seem like that big of a deal when we started the challenge, but at the end of 5 days, it was like, how did we make it through? Like, it's a lot of work when you're actually putting in the work, but that's like the point, right? Is that when we're putting in the work, we're learning and we're engaging and we're making an effort. And they always say that you make an effort for things that are really important in your life. So I am so happy and proud of you guys for deciding that photography is important enough for you to join us in this little month-long adventure. This will not be a year-long adventure because I will lose my mind. I love doing these videos, don't get me wrong, but like there's been some 2 a.m. nights where I'm like still recording videos because like I have a family and a job and stuff. All right, anyway, so we are going right into it. Week 2 means we're talking about shutter speed, fast shutter speed, slow shutter speed, both shutter speed, all over the place shutter speed. And yesterday we talked about a fast shutter speed, and today it is a grab bag of shutter speeds. See if I can say shutter speed one more time in the course of a minute, because we are doing self-portraits. Now, firstly, I'm gonna put all my cards on the table. Every freaking workshop, class, course, whatever we wanna call them, everything I've ever done in photography, somebody has made me do a self-portrait. I hate doing self-portraits. I love photography. I love all aspects of photography. I love doing all sorts of things in photography. I hate being in front of the camera in photography. I don't actually even like video that much, but I like talking, so that like trumps that, right? No, I really dislike doing self-portraits. I hate it every time my professor made us. I hate every workshop person that tells me it'll make me grow and a better person. So guess what? I'm the workshop leader now, and it will help you grow and be a better person. It's a cool technique, and I know a lot of you are really good at it. I've seen your Instagram, okay? So I don't particularly like being the subject of a photograph. That is why I'm behind the camera. But I really encourage you, even if you feel the same way I do, to try it and post it. And honestly, just tell me if you don't want it to be in the end of the week video. Like, post it on the Learn Facebook group. You don't even have to put it on Instagram if you don't want a photo of your face. But honestly, it's gonna turn out better than you think, and you're gonna be like, damn, I'm amazing. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that word. But that's what you're gonna say, right? Like, you're gonna be so excited because it's going to work out, and we're gonna walk into this in a very positive attitude. And with our positive attitude, I have a treat for you guys today. This is how I balance the lack of liking to do self-portraits with the enjoyment of teaching things, right? Now, you guys don't know it yet if you've never been to one of my workshops, but you are in for a treat because today I have animated graphics for everybody. Ooh, ah. Now, you guys might not think that's a big deal, but anybody who's taken my workshops before right now is giggling and clapping with joy to themselves. Okay, they're giggling because they know it's coming. But I have worked out a whole bunch of information for you guys, and I've put together some graphics, and hopefully you guys enjoy them. We will get to those in a second. First, let's talk about the practicality of doing self-portraits. So, self-portrait. You're pushing the button still, but you also have to be in front of the camera. Now, the most like traditional version, I have like a hair stuck to my nose. Now, like the most traditional version of a self-portrait in this day and age, not traditional like back in the day, but like right now, when we think of a self-portrait, we think of a selfie. We're like, hey, oh, duck face, right? And that's great, but that's not what I'm looking for. And I'm not necessarily looking for today, because our focus is on shutter speed, I don't want you to just stand in front of the camera. I need something that shows movement. So whether it shows frozen movement or blurry movement, movement is the name of the game. So basically I'm taking the assignment that I always hated in school and I'm making it harder. Okay, so with that, let's talk about practicalities, right? So first off, a tripod is super, super helpful with this whole project. Having a tripod will help you stabilize your camera and probably say less swear words as you're trying to do this. So a tripod of some sort, you don't have to spend a ton of money on a tripod, but having one does help considerably in photography in general, but specifically for this. If you do not have one, you can totally prop your camera up on like a table or something, but put something soft under it so like the lens is stable and it's not tilting up. So like I ball up a sweater or a hoodie or something, like when I'm traveling and don't happen to have a tripod with me, I'll ball up like a sweatshirt or a coat or something and set my camera on that so that the lens is stable as well, and then you can take those photos. Trick number 2, timer, right? Self-timer. So some of our cameras have cool apps that they can Bluetooth to on our phone, and we can get a live view through our camera. We can see what's happening. We can strike a pose. We can push the button discreetly behind our behind our back, and we can get these great photos. Not all of our cameras can do that though. So if you are not one of those people, or if you're like me, where even though I have great gear, I'm not bashing the gear, it is absolutely your user error. There are times where the whole Bluetooth connecting and making everything work just doesn't work for me. So I'm old school. I use a timer most of the time. My Christmas picture we actually did as a composite, and I took my own of that. I'll put that in here because why not? But that picture I took by myself and composited each individual person in. So I took my own. That's a selfie right there. Self-portrait there. So timer. Another trick with the timer is that you can actually set it so that it's like a delayed exposure with a timer, right? Like we are used to, but you can actually set it so it'll take like 5 pictures at a time. So then what you can do is set the timer, run into your position, it'll go beep, 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 and you go click, 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 right? And you don't have to set the timer for every single click. So typically that's called an interval timer on your camera, but it's going to be some version. I would tell you how to get there on your camera, but we all have really different cameras, so there's no way of me knowing specifically for your camera. Most cameras have this feature though, so you probably have to look in your manual or Google for that information. But multiple exposures with one timer is completely like, it's pretty standard at this point, all right? Okay, tripod, timer, multiple exposures. You could use a trigger like your cell phone, like I said, or you can use an actual trigger if you're not going to stand that far away from the camera. We are talking about shutter speed, so I want to see movement in these pictures. I don't care if you freeze the movement or you blur the movement. As you saw on the cover photo, which is this photo, 2 things. I had hair in this picture, which means it is not one I took yesterday. And 2, I used blur. So this is a self-portrait that I actually took at the probably week 3-ish of lockdown for the pandemic. I was living in Japan at the time, and Japan was about a month behind everybody in the US as far as lockdown procedures and that sort of thing. So mine started a little later than everybody else's, but it was kind of a crazy time for all of us, and I actually took the self-portrait as a emotional dialogue as to how I was feeling and the frustrations of the time. And I think that's what I want you guys to take away from this whole self-portrait thing. Like I said, I don't like them, and I don't. But the whole point behind a self-portrait when you're talking about art is to have that like emotional connection of some sort. Tell a story. Tell us how you're feeling. If it's I'm excited and I'm jumping up and down, or if it's I'm stressed and I have a variety of emotions, or anything in between. If you want to get really creative, I actually did a technique with ghosting that is different than this one, and I have a video that I did for Halloween I'll put up here, but that's a fun thing if you want to get like super into it. But I'm going to talk you through how I did this photo. It's very simple, and just kind of give you an idea if you want to use something similar for yours to try out. So, drum roll, time for graphics. Okay, so I know you're excited, so here are my graphics, and I'm going to talk you through how I did this image. Keep in mind that I do use lighting for this image, but it is in a very, very general and basic way. We are going to get more in-depth with lighting next week. So like, you can just wait for it. This is not that complicated, but learning how to understand lighting diagrams is important. So we're starting with baby steps. Okay, so first off, we're going to darken the room because we want a dark room for this because we want our light source to be the only source of light, right? Yeah, except for that doesn't make sense because now we're setting up in a dark room. So I started writing it that way and I was like, wait a minute. So new plan, set up your light first, okay? So your light source can be anything you want it to be. It can be a window, it can be an LED, it can be a flashlight, it can be a candle, though a candle doesn't hold a lot of light, so you're gonna want a really long exposure for that. But anything for a light source. In this case, I used an LED light, but a lamp could absolutely work. You just wanna be able to angle and control that light source. All right, so next you wanna set up your camera on a tripod. You can use a remote or a timer in order to trigger it. So set up how you would like to with your camera with that. Now you can turn off the lights because you have a light on, right? Yay! So turn off the lights, focus your light in the direction it needs to be. And then bring in your stunt double. So having something else in the place that you're going to be, whether it is a significant other, a child, or a stuffed animal, helps because you can help get the focus like on point and in the right spot, as well as spot metering, which is our next slide. Set up your exposure. So I would say start with like a 5-second exposure, and then if depending on how much movement in that you want to do, you might want to go longer than that. But if you start at 5 seconds and then spot meter your location and set your other settings for that, that's a great way to go and get you started. If you find when you're taking pictures that 5 seconds isn't enough time for you to do whatever movement you're trying to do, then just make the exposure longer and adjust the other settings as necessary. Now, if you find when you do that and you have that long exposure that it's too bright, that you can't drop your ISO any lower and your aperture is super closed down or as closed down as it can be for whatever setting you're taking the picture in, and it's still too bright, just move your light further away. Take it back, all right? All right, and then showtime. So you've spot metered, you know you want a nice long exposure, you've set up your timer with either a multiple exposure so that you can take multiple pictures in one setting, or you've got a trigger or your cool app or whatever, and it is time for you to model. Now, you moving will create blur, but if you hold still for a little bit, then you're gonna get like a form of the face. So for the photo that I took, I held still, and then I moved to one side and held still, and then I moved to the other side slowly and held still in the time allotted. And that was how I got the multiple emotions and expressions and blur. And step 6, show off how awesome you are. Let me see those photos, and you can share them on social with our hashtags, as you know, Learn Photo Challenge and Photos for the Rest of Us. Okay, so I made it sound really easy, right? It really is, you guys. You can do this. I have no doubt you will come up with amazing creative things. It does not have to be as simple as the one that I'm using. You could get as complex and crazy, or you could go the other direction and do some fast shutter speed stuff where you're like running and jumping, or however athletic you're feeling at this moment in time. But I'd really, really encourage you to take these pictures with shutter speed in mind and not just reuse images where maybe you're standing still or holding still and that stuff, because the idea is less about the self-portrait and more about the technique. And then self-portrait just adds a level of challenge that I like to challenge you guys. Also, if I've been through the torture, I feel like everybody should for every workshop. All right, so that is it. It's easy today, right? I don't have a lot of self-portraits to show you, so I'm not going to. You guys get to see my lovely face right here, right now. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave it in the comments below. Go ahead and like the video because I like it when you like me. And subscribe and notification bell if you haven't already, though I think most of you guys have. And then what do you do with the image? Share it on Instagram with hashtag LearnPhotoChallenge and hashtag Photos for the Rest of Us, or put it in the thread on our Learn Facebook group. I know you guys have heard me say this 1,000 times, but just in case you missed it, the link is below to join Anna Tenne's Learn Facebook group, and I will see you tomorrow for our new challenge, which involves less of my face. Bye!